17. Inheritance. Gene mutation. Gene mutations are inheritable, small-scale changes in the sequence of DNA. Many arise spontaneously while DNA is being replicated or after it is exposed to ultraviolet or ionizing radiation, alkylating agents, or some other mutagen in the environment. DNA and replication. During cell division, we learned that chromosomes replicate. Actually, it is the DNA molecule that replicates itself. This ensures that genetic information is passed on from one generation to the next without any loss. Chromosomes contain DNA carrying information in the form of genes. A gene is a length of DNA that codes for a protein. An allele is an alternative form of a gene. Sex, in humans, is determined by the X and Y chromosomes. Males are XY, females are 20. Sequences of bases control production of the amino acids that make up a protein. Different sequences of amino acids give different shapes to protein molecules. DNA controls cell function by controlling the production of proteins. The process of making proteins involves mRNA and ribosomes. All body cells in an organism contain the same genes, but many genes in a particular cell are not expressed because the cell only makes the specific proteins it needs. In a diploid cell there is a pair of each type of chromosome. In a human diploid cell there are 23 pairs. In a haploid cell there is only one of each type of chromosome. In a human haploid cell there are 23 individual chromosomes. Mitosis is nuclear division giving rise to genetically identical cells. Mitosis is important in growth, repair of damaged tissues, replacement of cells and asexual reproduction. The exact replication of chromosomes occurs before mitosis. During mitosis, the copies of chromosomes separate, maintaining the chromosome number in each daughter cell. Stem cells are unspecialized cells that divide by mitosis to produce daughter cells that can become specialized for specific functions. Mitosis is a type of cell division that produces genetically identical cells in which the chromosome number is maintained. It involves in growth, repair of tissues, and in asexual reproduction. Meiosis is a type of cell division that halves the chromosome number from diploid to haploid, 2n to n. It produces gametes that are genetically different from each other. Inheritance is the transmission of genetic information from generation to generation. The genotype of an organism is its makeup, e.g. TT and TT, etc. The phenotype of an organism is its observable features, e.g. height, skin color, tongue rolling, etc. Karyotype is the complete set of isolated chromosomes of a cell of an individual. Homozygous means having two identical alleles of a particular gene. Two identical homozygous individuals that breed together will be purebreeding, e.g. TT. Heterozygous means having two different alleles of a particular gene. A heterozygous individual will not be purebreeding, e.g. TT. A dominant allele is one that is expressed if it is present in the genotype. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatha 030046104457. A recessive allele is one that is only expressed when there is no dominant allele of the gene present in the genotype. Pedigree diagrams can be used to show how genetic diseases can be inherited in a family. Genetic diagrams are used to predict the results of monohybrid crosses and calculate phenotypic ratios. Punnett squares can be used in crosses to work out and show the possible different genotypes. A test cross is used to identify an unknown genotype, for instance to find out if it is purebreeding or heterozygous. In some cases, neither one of a pair of alleles is fully dominant over the other. This is called codominance. The inheritance of ABO blood groups is an example of codominance. A sex-linked characteristic is a feature in which the gene responsible is located on a sex chromosome, which this makes it more common in one sex than in the other. Color blindness is an example of sex linkage. Genetic diagrams can be used to predict the results of monohybrid crosses involving co-dominance and sex linkage. A chromosome contains a long length of DNA divided into sections called genes. A gene is a unit of inheritance. DNA controls the production of proteins. Each gene controls the protein. Genes may be copies and passed on to the next generation. Alleles are different forms of a gene. Alleles may be dominant or recessive. A dominant allele is expressed in the heterozygote, a recessive allele is only expressed in the recessive homozygote. The genetic makeup of an organism is called its genotype. The phenotype of an organism is its appearance, or how the genotype is expressed. Dominant gene is showing complete dominance. Genetic crosses produce offspring in predictable ratios, such as the 3:1 ratio from a cross between two heterozygotes. Observed ratios of phenotypes from a cross may differ from predicted rations, especially when there are small numbers of offspring. Some alleles of a gene are codominant, where the heterozygote shows features intermediate between those of the two homozygous genotypes. ABO blood groups are a result of codominant alleles. A mutation is a change in the structure of a gene or chromosome, or a change in chromosome number. Sickle cell anemia is caused by a gene mutation. Down syndrome is caused by a chromosome mutation. Mutagens such as radiation and chemicals increase the rate of mutation. X and Y chromosomes determine the sex of humans. Females have the genotype 20 and males the genotype XY. Variation in organisms can be discontinuous, such as blood groups, or continuous, such as height in humans. Competition leads to the differential survival of organisms and reproduction of those individuals most suited to their environment, a process called natural selection. Over many generations, natural selection causes species to change, in the process called evolution. Artificial selection involves selective breeding by humans to produce animals and plants with desirable characteristics. Genetic engineering involves transferring genes between cells. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M, Rashid Chatha 030046104457. The gene that controls the production of human insulin can be inserted into bacterial DNA, and the genetically engineered bacteria used to produce human insulin on a commercial scale. There are potential advantages and dangers associated with genetic engineering. Keywords: genetics, gene, DNA, RNA, chromosomes, allele, homozygous, heterozygous, hybrid, monohybrid, dihybrid, dominant, recessive, cross, first filial generation, second filial generation, first parental generation, second parental generation, gametes, hemophilia, color blindness, sickle cell anemia, centromere, genotype, phenotype, mutation, genetic engineering, gene technology, gene therapy, codominance, incomplete dominance, inbreeding, outbreeding, genetic code, competition. Survival of the fittest, gene cloning, replication, advantages of genetic engineering, disadvantages of genetic engineering, haploid number, diploid number, zygote, Punnett square. Glossary. Alleles. Two genes are called alleles of each other when they occupy the same relative position on homologous chromosomes, and control development of the same hereditary characteristic. Chromatid, one of the two identical strands of a chromosome. These separate during cell division and move to opposite ends of the cell. Chromosomes, rod-like structures visible in the nucleus of a cell during cell division, consisting of genes, and containing the hereditary information of the cell. Crossing over, a process during meiosis in which chromosomes exchange material with one another. This increases the chances of variation within a species. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, a chemical within chromosomes which contains the hereditary information of the cell. Dominant characteristic, one which appears in the phenotype when crossed with a contrasting recessive characteristic. F1 generation. The first filial generation. Organisms produced by crossing animals or plants which form the starting point of a genetical experiment. F2 generation, organisms produced by crossing or self-crossing members of an FI generation. Gene, part of a chromosome which controls the appearance of a set of hereditary characteristics. Genetics, the scientific study of genes. Genotype, the genetic makeup of an organism, or the set of genes which it possesses. Heterozygous, an organism is said to be heterozygous for a characteristic when the alleles, two genes, which control it are opposite in nature, e.g. TT. Homologous chromosomes, chromosomes form pairs in the early stages of meiosis. The two chromosomes of each pair are identical in shape and size and are described as homologous. Homozygous, an organism is said to be homozygous for a characteristic when the alleles, two genes, which control it are identical in nature, e.g. TT. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M, Rashid Chatter 030046104457. Meiosis, cell division that produces gametes, and results in cells with half the number of chromosomes found in the parent cell. Mitosis, type of cell division resulting in cells with the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. Monohybrid cross, cross between organisms which show contrasting variations of only one characteristic. Phenotype, the visible hereditary characteristics of an organism, physical appearance like height, skin color, and tongue rolling, etc. Genotype, an arrangement of genes or genetical characteristics of an organism, e.g. TT, TT, and TT, etc. Recessive characteristic, one that does not appear in the phenotype when crossed with a dominant characteristic. Segregation, the separation of genes which are alleles of each other at meiosis and their movement into separate gametes. X chromosome, a chromosome which, when present in a zygote either alone or with another X chromosome, causes that zygote to develop into a female organism. Y chromosome. A chromosome which, when present in a zygote, results in that zygote developing into a male organism. Short MCQs with right answers. 1. In mice, the allele for black hair is dominant to the allele for brown hair. Which proportion of offspring will have brown hair if a cross is made between a homozygous black mouse and a heterozygous black mouse? 0%. 2. Which statement about the synthesis of a protein molecule in a cell is correct? The sequence of amino acids is determined by the sequence of bases in the mRNA. 3. Each statement describes cell division by mitosis or meiosis in humans. 1. It produces cells that show variation. 2. It produces cells that are diploid. 3. It produces cells that are haploid. 4. It involves reduction division. Which statements describe meiosis? 4. What is defined as a length of DNA that codes for a protein? Gene 5. A man has 3 sons. What is the chance of his next child being a daughter? 50%. 6. When breeding, which pair of parents will be pure breeding for a particular characteristic? 2 homozygous individuals. 7. 34. In a pea plant, the allele for round seeds, R, is dominant to the allele for wrinkled seeds, R. If plants with the genotype RR are crossed, what are the likely proportions of offspring? 3 with round seeds, 1 with wrinkled seeds. 8. The graph shows the frequency of a human characteristic, X. Which characteristics can be represented by X? IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M, Rashid Chatter 030046104457. 9. Which row shows some of the features involved in natural selection? 10. Which statement is correct? Chromosomes are made of DNA. 11. In a species of mammal, black fur color is dominant and brown fur color is recessive. 2 parents with black fur produce offspring which all have black fur. Later that year, the same parents produce more offspring. One of these offspring has brown fur. Which statement about fur color is correct? Both parents are heterozygous. 12. The genotype for the height of an organism is written as TT. Which conclusion may be drawn? There are at least 2 different alleles of the gene for height. 13. Albinism is an inherited condition in which pigment does not develop in the skin, hair and eyes. The albino allele is recessive. What